the happy days. Arise and shine. Open your heart to the goodness that has come. Arise. For nations to rise, the human spirit must rise. On a day like this, open your mind to the lessons of life. Learn from the history of time and play the politics for the common good. It is the story of the first Nigerian coup. The 15th of January, 1966, a bloody day. Soldiers on rampage. 60 years after, the issues of the coup have refused to go away. Such is the lesson of time. When Kaduna Nzogu caught up with the premier of the northern region in Kaduna, what ran through his mind when he pulled the trigger? How could he? Somebody asked. Not just the premier, but his wife. It was on the 15th of January, 1966. Such is time. Why did Ojukwu not cooperate with Nzogu? Ojukwu was the top military officer. He operated from Kanu. Nzogu was in Kaduna. Why did Ojukwu not cooperate? Did Ojukwu not frustrate the coup? Ojukwu would later fight on the other side. What changed? When that army officer saw Ironsi, how come he could not pull the trigger? Why? His duty was to pull the trigger when he finds Ironsi. He finds Ironsi and could not pull the trigger. What was running through his mind? Such is the story of time. It is the radio man's time. It is Splash 105.5 FM, the Integrity Station. Hey, the radio man is here. On the front page of the Saturday Vanguard, Stay Milton Rivers, House proceeds with plans to impeach Fubara deputy. Sends letter to the chief judge. Court stops CJ from receiving, acting on letter. Fubara plotted for our constituencies to recall us rather than seek peace. 60 years after, January 1966 incursion was not an Igbo coup, but Zik Ironsi, Ojukwu knew about it. General Abi Sama speaks. January 1966 incursion was not Igbo coup, but Zik Ironsi, Ojukwu knew about it. But Amadu Bello knew about it too. Ladoke Akintola knew about it. They all knew about it. Nzogu spoke about the coup openly in the barracks. They motivated. They cooperated. On the 14th of January 1966, did Akintola not visit Ahmadu Bello in Kaduna? What did they discuss? Was coup not discussed in that meeting? So how come they did not take precaution? Yes, Nnamdi Azikiwe knew about it, but he took precaution, unlike the others. Remember, even the British High Commission wanted to provide safety. The Premier, the Prime Minister, Akintola took it for granted. Did Akintola not learn how to shoot? He was taught how to shoot. What was he preparing for? When the coup planners came, did Akintola fire some shots at them? Hey, such is the story of time. 60 years after, January 1966 incursion was not an Igbo coup, but Zik Ironsi Ojukwu knew about it. You find that headline on the front page of the Saturday Vanguard. 1959 election. The MPC won 148 seats into parliament in the 1959 election. NCNC and NEPU won 89 seats. Action Group and United Middle Belt Congress won 75 seats. That means NCNC and NEPU were allies in parliament. NEPU was like the opposition to the MPC in the north, Northern Element Progressive Union, led by Aminu Kanu. The MPC was led by Ahmadu Bello. Nnamdi Azikiwe led the NCNC. Obafemi Awolowo was the leader of the Action Group. The leader of the United Middle Belt Congress was Joseph Taka. So the party with the majority is most likely to form a government. MPC had 148 seats. And the other parties put together had 164 seats. So, to form a government, the MPC needs a coalition partner to have more than 50% of the vote in parliament. So they had to negotiate. It is not a winner takes it all like we operate today. The APC wins the presidency, the APC takes it all. It was reported that Awolowo agreed to join Zik to form a government with AG as junior partner. That is, if NCNC and AG forms an alliance including NEPU and UMBC, it becomes 89 plus 75. In that case, they have 164 votes. That means there will be majority. And MPC will have to play the opposition. At that point, Ahmadu Bello and the MPC threatened to break out of Nigeria if a Southern alliance was born. That was another point when the North threatened to break out of Nigeria. But there is also another economic logic. If the South was richer, if the South had economic power, there was oil in the South, Western region was doing well. One of the reasons the amalgamation happened was for the South to fund the North. So by 1959, the South had economic power and had intellectuals like Azikiwe and Obafemi Awolowo. If they had also formed the government, what would have happened to the North? So some British scholars reasoned that let's give political power to the North and balance the state with the economic power of the South. What do you think? So when the MPC threatened to break out of Nigeria if a Southern alliance was born, some analysts say that the NCNC abandoned its northern partner, NEPU, to join forces with the MPC. So that was how Nnamdi Azikiwe became Governor General at independence, and Abubakar Tafawa Balewa became the Prime Minister. The MPC was the senior partner in the government. By October 1963, when Nigeria became a republic, Nnamdi Azikiwe became the president of Nigeria. Mind you, by becoming the Governor General at independence, Nnamdi Azikiwe represented the Queen. So from 1960 to 1963, Nigeria practiced constitutional monarchy. Nnamdi Azikiwe as Governor General represented the Queen. It was when she became a republic in 1963 that the Queen ceased to be the head of state of Nigeria. Why the negotiations happened? The boys in the barrack were watching. They saw the intrigues. They saw the unrest. There is another subject about Nigeria's being. The Tripartition Act. Adewale Ademoyega in his book, Why We Struck, argues that the British deliberately placed a greater percentage of the land and people of Nigeria in the north, putting the percentages of population at 54.5 north, 20 million west, 23 million east, and 2.5 million southern Cameroon. So that was the population breakdown that gave the north the political advantage over the south. Adewale Ademoyega makes the point that as a result, British gave the north 55% of the federal constituencies, meaning that without the south, the north can have majority in parliament. And in 1964, when the south boycotted the federal elections, the north went ahead and still had majority in parliament. And Nnamdi Azikiwe refused to call Balewa to form a government. By this time, there was realignment. Nnamdi Azikiwe had now formed alliance with Awolowo's party. But sadly, Awolowo was in prison at this time, and Adegbenro was the leader of the action group. Such is time. Such is history. You can join the discourse. Tell me what you know. Teach me. 070694 93000. 070694 93000. You can also call 070 144 75770. In the Western region, hello.
Hello?
Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Yeah, this is Lawrence from UMETU. You see, I think according to Ademoyega, he said he met Chief Justice at Takwa Bay. So it's not impossible that Akintola also has been planning with the leadership of the end to know how to wipe away Hawo. I don't know how true is that. And according to what Ademoyega said, also, the statement of the British has always been that the northern people will always govern the others. So I think we need to sit down in this country to think which way to go. So we need to restructure the system. If not, we'll just be rounding it up. Thank you.
Thank you. But from what we have now, it is not the North that is governing. There's some level of balancing. So in that case, has Nigeria improved structurally? In fact, since the return of democracy, the South had governed more. The South has produced Olusegun Obasanjo for 8 years. Yar'Adua came for 3 years. Jonathan took over for 5 years. Then Buhari did 8 years. Tinubu is there now. So whatever the British created has been reshaped. And that is what time does. The water will always find its place. I want to read what Richard Akinjide said. Then we'll also look at his position on Nigeria's population. On this edition, we are going to do reading. So let's read. I want to read from the book, Fellow Countrymen, the story of coup d'etats in Nigeria. So Akinjide wrote the preface of the book, so it's the preface that I want to look at. Akinjide was a minister of education in the First Republic under Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa. He later became the Attorney General of Nigeria from 1979 to 1983. He said when the amalgamation took effect, the British government south. That was the basis on which we got our independence in 1960. And when I was in the parliament, I entered parliament on December 12, 1959. He continues, when the North formed a political party, the Northern leaders called it Northern People's Congress, MPC. They didn't call it Nigeria People's Congress. That was in accordance with the dictum and policies of Lugard. Akinjide continues, when Aminu Kanu formed his own party, he called it the Northern Element Progressive Union, NEPU, not Nigerian Element Progressive Union. It was only Awolowo and Zik who were mistaken that there was anything called Nigeria. That's Akinjide's position. See, he says, it was only Awolowo and Zik who were mistaken that there was anything called Nigeria. Did he say that? In fact, the so-called Nigeria created in 1914 was a complete fraud. I'm reading the words of a former Attorney General of Nigeria, and he wrote this preface after he had become the Attorney General under Shagari, and he was Minister of Education in the independence government. It says Nigeria was not created in the interest of Nigeria or Nigerians, but in the interest of the British. And what were the structures created? The structures created were as follows. Northern Nigeria was to represent England. Western Nigeria, like Wales, and Eastern Nigeria was to be Scotland. In the British structure, England has permanent majority in the House of Commons. There was no way Wales can ever dominate England, neither can Scotland dominate England. But they are very shrewd. They would allow a Scottish man to become Prime Minister. They would allow a Welshman to become Prime Minister in London. But the fact remains that the actual power is rested in England. So that was the structure they gave Nigeria, so that the actual power would be rested in the north. And Awolowo was not comfortable with this. So he kept fighting. If you read Awo's book, he kept saying the north was too big, that there was a need to break down the regions into smaller units. Ahmadu Bello resisted this. Instead, they broke the western region into two to punish Awolowo and created the Midwest and left the north intact. And the military boys were watching. They were watching. Not the top brass of the military, the radical branch of the Nigerian military was watching. Are you in class? It is the story of the first Nigerian coup. Akinjide says, that was what Lugard created in Nigeria. A permanent majority for the north. The population figure is also a fraud. In fact, a British colonial civil servant who was involved in the fraud was trying to expose it, but he was never allowed to publish it. The analysis is as follows. If you look at the map of West Africa, starting from Mauritania to Cameroon, and take a population of each country as you move from the coast to savannah, the population decreases. Or conversely, as you come from the desert to the coast, right from Mauritania to Cameroon, the population increases. The only exception through the zone is Nigeria, Akinjide says. He continues, Nigeria is the only zone whereby you go from the coast to the north, the population increases, and you come from the north to the coast, the population decreases. Well, geographers, anthropologists, and population experts draw your conclusions. Someone has told me that the last population census was done by computer. What nonsense. A computer is as good as its programmer. A computer will produce what you ask it to produce. What do you think about Richard Akinjide's analysis? 070694 93000. 070144 75770. Good morning.
Good morning, Edmund.
Good morning, SB Abuduni.
That's my name. Well, the British started it all. But I'm still telling you that despite the fact that the South has had opportunity to rule Nigeria twice now, the agenda of the North is still being followed to a very large extent. The issue of the amnesty to the criminals by now should have been wiped off. Have you heard that? it is still in place. It is northern agenda because some of their leaders. Hello?
I'm with you.
And, it is the northern agenda because some of their leaders claim that they are our boys. Some of them said a defeat of Boko Haram is a defeat of the North. And up to now, that is still being held. So, they are benefiting from that British plunder. Thank you, Edmond.
Thank you, SB Abudurin. The lines are open. Good morning.
Hello, Edmond.
Good morning.
Alhaji Chief Sulaiman Oladipo, Bolaniwa Lorun Sheki, and Lamu Rijajogun. I will call your introduction this morning as reminiscences. All these are what I witnessed, not as a kid, but I experienced it physically. You see, will I call it rise and fall?
Hello, is Baba there? And that line was so clear. Ah, Baba, call again. Or doing. Let's read. I want to read from page 35 of the book, Why We Struck, written by Adewale Ademoyega. Why We Struck. He says, it was on October 31st, 1961, that I arrived at the military training depot. Hello, Baba.
Baba is back. Are you hearing me now?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Edmund, it was a painful story. Our southern leaders, Richard Akinjide, AMF Akeloye, from Ibadan here, immediately after the demise of Adegoke Adelabo, they were looking for their network to be able to come up. But fortunately for them, the crisis in action group started. And Chief Obafemi Awolowo was not accommodating. See, if Chief Awolowo had been accommodating and found a way to bring his own people together, the whole of the South, and with his negotiation with Nnamdi Azikiwe, and if they didn't deceive themselves, if there were no breakdown or deceit in a negotiation, maybe Nigeria would have, the First Republic would have succeeded. But it was because of all this struggling among these politicians, especially the Southerners, that ended the First Republic. But we thought we would have learned our lessons after the military, but the same thing continued. You say, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, when I was telling you the other time that Chief Obafemi Awolowo will have stood to conquer, and it is what we are all regretting today. Even when Awolowo died, Odumegwu say it was the president we never had. So it's a food for thought for every Nigerian. I personally,
We're radical elements. If you read Adewale Ademoyega's book, he was already planning a revolution even before joining the army. While they were recruiting for the army in 1961, he met Chukwumerije. While they were waiting to be interviewed, they were already thinking of how they were going to change the army. So they came into the army with a revolutionary spirit. You know, Adewale Ademoyega had already gone to the university before coming to the army. So he was politically conscious. I want to read this. It was on October 31st, 1961, that I arrived at the military training depot, Zaria, for enlistment into the army. I was met on my arrival by Lieutenant Nzogu. Lieutenant Nzogu was there. That was the first time Adewale Ademoyega was meeting his partner. Nzogu was the training officer of the depot at the time. He received me so well that I was deeply touched by his humanity, Nzogu's humanity. I was meeting him for the first time, yet it was as if we had known each other since childhood. Can you imagine? Their spirit clicked immediately. It was natural, organic, as they say. He said it was like I had known him since childhood. He continues, there was a natural rapport between us. It was Nzogu who taught me the rudiments of military life, such as handling a gun, aiming and shooting, and such terms as the aim of the army is to destroy the enemy, whoever the enemy was, and so on. Nzogu personally supervised my initiation into the army. We were both interested in each other. We became friends and discussed heartily together. They became friends and they discussed heartily. He says, before I was actually commissioned, I had met and established a solid relationship with two young officers of the army, Nzogu and Emmanuel Ifajuna, whose hearts pointed in the same direction as mine. They were kindred spirits. And they were not, what was driving them was their spirit. They were kindred spirits. I had met and established a solid relationship with two young officers of the army, Nzogu and Ifajuna, whose hearts pointed in the same direction as mine. It seemed as if the three of us were destined to play the big and decisive role together. So they were the three planners of the coup. They were the arrowheads of the coup, Nzogu, Ifajuna, and Adewale Ademoyega. It is Splash 105.5 FM, the Integrity Station. Stay tuned, stay cool.
State Affairs with Edmond Nobilo is live. Stay tuned.
We were told that there were intelligence reports about this and that and so on. But then the intelligence reports came before the election. It should have been used before the election, not after the election.
Babangida said if he did not annul the election, there would have been a military coup.
That's how it's unfortunate that a general would chicken out of that.
Did he chicken out?
Yeah, well, he was commander in chief. So if he had an idea there would be a coup, he should have gone ahead to deal with the coup.
Eventually, he set up the interim national government, and there was a coup. Abacha took over.
Of course.
Was that a coup?
Well, in a way, it wasn't a coup. It was an arrangement. Because that's already inscribed in the interim national government decree, that if Shonekan fails, then the most senior military man should take over. First of all, why would you think that Shonekan will fail? To say that he will fail means that you already assume he should fail. And then you have appointed somebody to take over.
And he took over.
And he took over. So it wasn't a coup, it was a succession. And it was planned.
And Abacha began his lies.
And Abacha then decided that he would stay on. And he decided, he went ahead to establish political parties, dissolved all the parties, and then decided to establish 5 political parties. And Chief Bola Ige described those 5 political parties as 5 fingers on a leprous hand, because they were the same. They were on the same hand. They were all, you just split the same thing into 5. And eventually, the 4 of the 5 parties accepted Abacha as their candidate for the presidency. Technically, Abacha wasn't a member of any of the parties. So how come the parties now adopt him as their presidential candidate? The normal rule is that a presidential candidate will be one of the members of the political party. In this case, a party was appointing somebody not in their party to become the president of the country.
The plan was that he would be the consensus candidate.
Well, if it's going to be consensus, then you allow the parties to vote and concede that. Not that the leaders would say, he's our man. Because there has also been what some of us see as organized support. Boys asking for Abacha. And everybody, they say...
Youth earnestly ask for Abacha. led by Dan Ekalu.
Yes. And so...
The 2 million man march.
Yeah, a million march man and that kind of thing. All that drama was going on. So it wasn't as if the thing was normal. It's organized, it's orchestrated.
He lied to Abiola. Abiola fell for his lies.
Yeah, Abiola fell for his lie because they had been together for years. And there was a level of trust. So the lie was also a betrayal.
He said he was going to hand over
He
to
said
Abiola.
he was going to hand over.
And Abiola
nominated some of the members
Africa is not helpless, though. Are you helpless? Please don't be. The Nation. Fubara, all eyes on Rivers Chief Judge. All eyes on me. Assembly asks CJ to raise panel to probe allegations against governor. Court bars him from constituting panel. Why fence mending failed by legislators. Defense Minister to state, stop negotiating with bandits. Can they stop? You know, when you can't beat them, you join them. When you can't beat the bandit, you will negotiate with them. It's not about saying stop negotiation with the bandit. If you can't beat them, you negotiate. I've seen many people writing, why are you negotiating with bandits? Or you kill them now, deal with them if you can. Since you can't, you will negotiate. It's an insurgency. So I'm not aloof. You will pay ransom because you can't arrest them. You can't deal with them. You don't have the capacity to deal with them. So as you pay ransom, they have become a state on their own. But you call them an illegitimate state. But they can collect ransom. Ransom is tax. And they use it to fund their movement. The Lakurawa collects tax from the people. You can't go to the farm unless you pay your tax. It is happening. The way Tinubu is a tax collector. Have you paid your tax? Who will not pay tax? So the state will negotiate, Mr. Minister. I hope you understand. Even the all-powerful United States negotiated with the Taliban. The United States accepted ISIS. ISIS now leads Syria. The ISIS branch that fought in Syria is now in power. And the guy has gone to visit Donald Trump. It is about negotiations. Since you cannot defeat the bandits, you will negotiate, Mr. Minister. If you don't want to negotiate, deal with them if you can. But those who caused the problem, whose character wasn't the problem, cannot solve that problem with the same character. I see the politicians talk about banditry as if it's an isolated subject. It is connected to the political character of leadership, to the political structure of the state. It is connected to the social well-being of the people. What about the economic standing of a land? Why we struck? Adewale Ademoyiga wanted a revolutionary army. He came into the army with a revolutionary zeal. If you turn to page 34 of his book, he says, certainly there had been and there are still many revolutionary armies in the world. The Genghis Khan's army of the 13th century was revolutionary. He's encouraging himself that the possibility of building a revolutionary army in Nigeria was on course. And he gives examples. Genghis Khan, army of the 13th century, was revolutionary. Adewale Ademoyiga says it wedded the divisions of the tribalistic Mongols of Central Asia together. Then he reminds us of the Cromwellian army of the 17th century. In England, it was revolutionary. Remember the England Revolution? the Glorious Revolution. I think that was 1688. So he said Oliver Cromwell led that revolution. The Cromwellian army of the 17th century was revolutionary. Nigerian says, we don't want leaders. We don't want leaders. It is leaderless. When it is leaderless, it goes nowhere. So that was the first sign that it was going to fail. And it crumbled like a pack of cards. For revolutions to make sense, it must be led. But it also comes with its own consequences. So Nzogu, Adewale Ademoyega, and Ifajuna wanted a revolutionary army. Adewale says the Cromwellian army of the 17th century was revolutionary. It did away with the British monarchy and developed the parliamentary system in Britain. That was the effect of the Glorious Revolution. Before then, the monarchy was absolute. The monarchy governed. No one contested the words of the king. It was absolute monarchy, totalitarianism, dictatorship at the highest. And due to that revolution, the constitutional monarchy collapsed, birthing the British Parliament. Adewale Ademoyega liked the revolution, and they thought they would reenact such in Nigeria. Not the British pattern, but a revolution that would birth democratic socialism. Democratic socialism encapsulated within communalism. He says the Napoleonic army of the early 19th century was revolutionary. It twice saved France from anarchy and brought together various peoples and nations under the French revolutionary principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity. The Revolutionary Bolshevik Army of Russia was the first in the world to establish the rulership of the proletariat. Adewale says the army of Chairman Mao of China in the mid-20th century was also revolutionary. They wanted a revolutionary army. He says it wedded the divided Chinese peoples into one and transformed Chinese peasants and feudal serfs into free, responsible, and self-respecting citizens. Today, the Cuban army of Dr. Fidel Castro is revolutionary and continues to make Cuba an embodiment of revolutionary ideas and practices. Even in Africa, both the Angolan and Mozambican armies may yet turn out to be revolutionary if the ideas enunciated by the leaders of turning the people into socialist, educated, and classless communities are realized. So Zogu and Co. were socialist communities. But classless community, is it not an classless? Can we achieve a classless society? Is it possible? Is it not natural that man always creates leadership? There's a leadership class. So when there's a leadership class, can it be classless? We have heard that argument, that you can have a classless society. No rich, no poor. Everyone is equal. But what about the person that divides the food? That is power. If there are 10 of us and there's somebody that comes in the morning to give the food, or who says what will we eat today, that is power. That is why mommies are also powerful. They decide what you will eat. That is power. In that case, the family is not classless. Even within brothers and sisters, there's this one that wants to dominate. Is class not a natural tendency? I'm just thinking. The lines are open. 070694 93000 and 070144 75770. Those are the numbers to call. 070 694 93000 and 070144 75770. We are streaming on Splash FM Facebook page.
Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Hello, Radio Man. Yeah. This is Lawrence, calling back from university. You see, class is a natural tendency, though. But I think the northern people, they have this extensionist idealism that they run. Say, for instance, in 1913, the Secretary of State for the colony, I think Lord Harcourt, he said that a well-conducted youth is about to marry a southern lady of Maine. I hope that the marriage is fruitful. So there has been always this, you are born to rule. So that's why I do say that, okay, a country whereby, okay, there is cultural diversity, then you want to create cultural uniformity. And this has been my question. On what ethos or value system is Nigeria built upon? Is it upon a vague, mystic, or astrological belief that we are meant to be? Let us sit down and restructure the system. Take care of the system, and the attitudinal problem will take care of itself. Thank you.
Restructure. Who will restructure? You know, when sinners restructure a system, I mean, it's the foundation upon which you restructure is key. Now here, let's restructure. Let's restructure. Who does the restructuring? What leads a country first is spirit. It is that spirit that will birth a constitution. Have you read about the man who wrote the American Constitution? I've heard about this born to rule. Is it true that the North claims it was born to rule? Is it true? And sometimes we always look at the Fulani when we talk about these things. Is it true that the North dominates Nigeria? How do you define dominance? If the highest rate of poverty is found in the North, how would you say that that North is dominating Nigeria? How? If the North is the epicenter of insurgent violence, how can you say that the North is dominating the South? Or you just look at president. What has the presidency of Tinubu brought to Yoruba land, if that is the case? What did the presidency of Buhari do for the North? What drives development? Is it the presidency? By the way, the most powerful leader on paper in the First Republic was the Prime Minister, Tafawa Balewa. He is not a Fulani man. Ahmadu Bello was the most powerful, not on paper. He was Fulani. So he led a feudalistic system that Adewale Ademoyega and Nzogu said they wanted to demolish. They were not happy with the feudal system that Saldana led in the North. According to Adewale Ademoyega, the Fulani imposed Islamic and feudalistic rulership on the North. But where they resisted, the Tiv revolt of the 1960s was a resistance of the Fulani. Though the revolution or the revolt was brutally brought down, but it left a mark in the politics of the North. Even at that time, Did they not dominate Obafemi Awolowo and Azikiwe in the true sense of the word? After Baliwa, Yakubu Gowon governed. Yakubu Gowon is not an Hausa or a Fulani. He governed for 9 years, from 1966 to 1975. He was a Christian, the son of an Anglican priest. He came from Plateau State. Not Fulani, not Hausa. He governed for 9 years. Then Murtala Muhammad overthrew him in 1975. Murtala governed for 6 months. Let's say Murtala was Fulani, but history says it's not Fulani. Who took over? A Yoruba man took over after the 6 months reign of Murtala Muhammad. Olusegun Obasanjo took over from 1976 to 1979. So the first time a Fulani was truly governing was from 1979 to 1983, Alhaji Shehu Shagari from Sokoto State. So what is it about this Fulani dominate? How many billionaires have the North produced compared to the South? In terms of education, is the North dominating the South? So where does this dominance come from? Are there better roads in the North compared to the South? Are there bigger businesses in the North compared to the South? Let's think. Perhaps we have pushed a narrative for too long. Let's critically analyze it. The longest serving Fulani in power was Muhammadu Buhari. Buhari was president or head of state from the 1st of January 1984 to August 26, 1985. Then he came back again as democratically elected. If Tinubu grabs power, he will do 8 years. So where's the dominance from? Let's talk. The Fulani is a minority in the North, I hope you know. But again, if you look at the Emirate system, yes, there was a conquest of the Hausa. There was a conquest of the Hausa. Was Aminu Kanu a Fulani or Hausa? Metama Sule was so brilliant. How come they did not allow him to become president of Nigeria? Perhaps he was not a Fulani. He was Hausa. Metama Sule. Who controls the army? Call the radio station. Teach me. I want to learn. Good morning.
Good morning, Radio Man. My name is James. I'm calling from Lagos. Thank you for your wonderful exposition as always. What you've said is entirely true. The fact that the Fulani hegemony in Nigeria was a construction of disalignment between the Southern leaders. And I mean, in this case, I will make reference to Chief Obafemi Awolowo and the late Nnamdi Azikiwe. You know, at the Fourth Republic, it was glaring that those two figures have been at the forefront of the new Nigeria. They are the blueprint. They are very knowledgeable. Everyone knows that these people are actually knowledgeable to steer the economy of the country politically forward. But because of minor disagreements, which till today I still cannot fathom why we wasted a shot at becoming great as a nation. So I think it's a disalignment between the Southern leaders that gave room for the Northern elite to actually come into the power play. And as very much I will say, they understand power than us. And that is why they've been able to sustain it over the years. And I think this narrative has to change for us to actually have a new nation to call Nigeria. But my challenge about the new nation change is the current institution of democracy that we are running in this country makes it so difficult for us to actually expect that change that will redefine this country. Because the data are there, very glaring, that when we're operating a regional government, all the regions were doing extremely well. So what is stopping us from reverting to that system is because the current template that we have has been so much arranged so that we cannot actually put this thing through. And in my own honest opinion, I think we might actually need a benevolent leadership dictator to actually give us, return us back to a party setting. That's my own honest opinion. I mean, it might be wrong. Someone might argue that, but I think that is what I believe, in my opinion, that can assist us to move back to where we actually lost it. Thank you very much for your contributions.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
It is Splash 105.
This is Kingsley calling from New Road.
Make your point.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Hello?
All right. Bye. Hello, good morning.
Hello, Edmond.
Good morning.
Edmond. Hello?
I can hear you.
Edmond.
Make your point.
Hello?
Okay. Bye.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
This is Kingsley calling from New Road. For me, if you look at the history of Nigerian political history, if you look at the way the military came to power, you will discover that most of them are actually the Fulani extraction. But they spend very limited time in power and being overthrown by their kinsmen. When Obasanjo was there, he spent 4 years. No Yoruba soldiers decided to overthrow him. So it is their number in power that makes people say they have dominated. If you look at the Yoruba extraction or the South or the Igbo, apart from the first one that died at Lado what is his name again? And Obasanjo, no other tribe actually enjoyed that luxury of ruling. So that's why we conclude that they have dominated. Now, not developing their region is entirely their fault. They rejected Western education. They deliberately ensure that their people are not educated, and they are as a result of that impoverished. In the South here and the East, people are well educated. So if there's no way in politics, people find their way in other areas and make money for themselves. So it is that education that they are disadvantaged at that make them to be where they have to be. Thank you very much, Radio Man.
Thank you. Yes, Adewale Ademoyega wrote about the northernization of the army. And that was one of the reasons they struck. They saw that Ahmadu Bello and northern leaders were trying to northernize the army. But who is more powerful? A leader that brought education or a leader that brought guns? Oh, they not control the army. Okay, they control the army. The north is the most violent zone in Nigeria. How do you reconcile that? And Obafemi Awolowo brought education. And the southwest is the most peaceful zone in Nigeria. How do you explain that? So who was more dominant, Awolowo or Ahmadu Bello? The western region was richer than Nigeria. Is he who controls the gun that controls the future? You want me to have a gun and drop my books? Give me the books and keep the guns. Let's read. Bosun, let's pick that call. Good morning.
Hello, Edmond.
SB Abuduri, why is it so low?
Once more. That's my name. Now, it has been proved beyond reasonable doubt that negotiation cannot give us any solution to this problem. In fact, rather, it has led to escalation. So, the government should think twice. Instead of negotiating with terrorists or these bandits, why don't you use technology to fight the battle? Up to today, the government has refused to deploy technology to fight this battle. We have not seen drones. We have not seen helicopters. The phones are not being used in kidnap cases. So when are we going to be out of it? I think it is because the government embraces it. Thank you. God bless you.
SB Abuduni says that the government has not used technology, but they've been using drones now. You've not heard about Nigerian Air Force bombing territories. They've been using technology. The bandits also have technology, don't you know? They have some of the latest guns. That's technology. They also have their own drones. They know how to build bombs. They also use technology. It's an insurgency. If the military can easily go and displace them, they could have done that since. The boys can match them. Don't you get? It's not that because you are a soldier means that you are tough. The boys can match Nigerian army fire for fire. It's the same gun they are holding now. Can't you see how they cornered the general? They ambushed Nigerian troop. They also have military trainers training them. It's an insurgency. You have been fighting for 9 years. It's an insurgency. They also have military advisors. Since you can't beat them, you will negotiate. If you can't beat them, you negotiate. The only way not to negotiate is to beat them. But the corrupt leadership cannot beat them. Let them bring all the weapons. Let Donald Trump give them. The spirit of evil that flows through bad leadership always contaminates the land. That is why they say he that comes to equity must come with clean hands. Corrupt leadership that terrorizes their own people themselves through policies cannot defeat bandit. To every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Poor leadership will produce banditry, and poor leadership cannot defeat it. It is inspiring leadership. With inspiring leadership, you might not even fire a gun, and you will take out half of the bandits from the bush without firing a gun, through just policy. But poor leadership will not exert such policies because they are selfish. Because they are selfish, they are greedy. Because they are greedy, they destroy the land. Technology. Technology. We need to release the technological plan for the takeoff of Nigeria. When you own the technology and you learn to use it, America can say, I'm not giving you the technology for precision strike. If I must give it to you, All right, you give us 22 oil wells. Nothing goes for nothing. And by the time they give you the technology and you give them 22 oil wells, so we will not teach you how to use it unless you give us additional 8 wells. Okay, we'll give them 8 wells. They say we will not give you the parts when they spoil until you give us 12 wells. They will give them 12 wells, they give us the parts. By the time you are good to it, they come out with a new product. They say that one is obsolete. There's a new one in town. For you to have it, you have to give us 20 mining sites. International politics is business, transactional. When you have destroyed your universities, how can you cope? You can't even build drones. You can't build drones. You just eat food. You party all the time. Your leaders have all grown big stormy. We are Agbada everywhere, making noise, jumping up and down. Traditional rulers will not sit in their palaces anymore. They are all shaking hands. They can't build anything. They've renegotiated the agreement, 40% increment for us. Will that take them home? We need to look at the system totally. We will ask ASU to give us a proposal. I'm talking about money for research. We need to fund research. We will fund research. You fund research. The lecturer will be busy thinking, not thinking of what to eat or school fees to pay. Their children will be well taken care of. The state will take care of their children. They should sit down and think. The work of a scholar is to think. We create the environment for them to think. We fund research. We build drones, super drones. We take them out with precision strikes. That's not to say we will not negotiate with America. We will build an education system that is so sweet and robust. Everybody will be thinking, will be rich. We'll build cameras, aeroplanes, cars. We'll launch the technological takeoff of Nigeria. It's going to be massive. Wait for it. It is Splash 105.5 FM, the Integrity Station. Stay tuned. Stay cool.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
Splash FM 105.
And that and so on. But then the intelligence reports came before the election. It should have been used before the election, not after the election.
Babangida said if he did not annul the election, there would have been a military coup.
That's how it's unfortunate that a general would chicken out of that.
Did he chicken out?
Yeah, well, he was commander-in-chief. So if he had an idea there would be a coup, he should have gone ahead to deal with the coup.
Eventually, he set up the interim national government. And there was a coup. Abacha took over.
Of course.
Was that a coup?
Well, in a way, it wasn't a coup. It was an arrangement. Because that's already inscribed in the interim national government decree, that if Shonekan fails, then the most senior military man should take over. First of all, why would you think that Shonekan will fail? To say that he will fail means that you already assume he should fail. And then you have appointed somebody to take over.
And he took over.
And he took over. So it wasn't a coup, it was a succession, and it was planned.
And Abacha began his lies.
And Abacha then decided that he would stay on. And he decided, he went ahead to establish political parties, dissolved all the parties, and then decided to establish 5 political parties. And Chief Bola Ige described those 5 political parties as 5 fingers on a leprous hand, because they were the same. They were on the same hand. They were all, you just split the same thing into 5. And eventually, the 4 of the 5 parties accepted Abacha as their candidate for the presidency. Technically, Abacha wasn't a member of any of the parties. So how come the parties now adopt him as their presidential candidate? The normal rule is that a presidential candidate will be one of the members of the political party. In this case, a party was appointing somebody not in their party to become the president of the country.
The plan was that he would be the consensus candidate.
Well, if it's going to be consensus, then you allow the parties to vote and concede that. Not that the leaders would say, he's our man. Because there has also been what some of us see as organized support. Boys asking for Abacha. And everybody, they say...
Youth earnestly ask for Abacha. led by Dan Ekanu.
Yes. And so...
The 2 million man march.
Yeah, a million march man and that kind of...
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
Let's read. Let's read from this book, The Last Flight. A pilot remembers the Air Force and the Biafran air attacks. Written by Captain August Ukbe. The Last Flight. A comprehensive book on Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian War. I want to read from chapter 15. Page 181. The military revolution that took place in Kaduna on the 15th of January, 1966, appeared initially to be hugely popular, and everyone seemed happy with the new scheme of things. Major Chukwuma Kaduna Nzogu and his inner circle group of officers were riding high, why the Air Force was not left out. Nzogu's point man in the Nigerian Air Force was Second Lieutenant Emeka Amuchiawa, who did not hesitate to let us know who was in charge. The following is a report submitted by Nigeria Air Force Lance Corporal Anthony Alaribe to the Air Force Section of the Eastern Command, Enugu, detailing what activities took place at the Nigeria Air Force Tactical and Training Wing Kaduna, on the 15th of January, 1966. You know, that is one area we've not paid attention to, the role that was played by the Air Force in that coup. But look at it again. The names being mentioned in the Air Force were also Igbo names. It said Nzogu's point man in the Nigeria Air Force was Second Lieutenant Emeka Amuchianwa. That is an Igbo man. You know, we've not mentioned him. When we talk about the coup, you are not mentioning the Air Force officers. Because if you read this book, you will see the role they played. Because at some point, Nzogu needed money from Kanu. And Ojukwu was in charge in Kanu. He did not cooperate with Nzogu. By the way, is Nzogu an Igbo man in the true sense of the word? Who is an Igbo? And who is a Yoruba? Nzogu was born in Kaduna. You see, they always call him Kaduna Nzogu. He was born in Kaduna. He grew up in Kaduna. He launched the coup in Kaduna. He spoke Hausa fluently. Is Nzogu not a Kaduna boy? You know, in Nigeria, they was okay. He will now go back to Delta, where he doesn't even know. Where he knew was Kaduna, that was his home. And if you were running a true federal structure, that is where he's from. You know, even the Yorubas that claim, let's restructure, also insist on indigenship. Contradictions everywhere. Let's restructure. We need a federal setup. But you claim indigenship. You must be an indigene for him to be governor. Who is an indigene? You don't want to resolve that because of your own selfishness. But when a Yoruba wins an election in England, everybody is celebrating. A Nigerian has been elected into the British Parliament. And we are all happy, shouting. But here, you don't want to see an Igbo man into Oyo State House of Assembly. And he has lived here. Hypocrites. Hypocrisy. Oh, he's an African. He has been elected into the U.S. Congress. We are celebrating, clapping. In Imo State, you don't want to see a Yoruba man in the Imo State House of Assembly, even if he was born there. Hypocrisy. And when the people are hypocritical, they don't grow. They are selfish. There are some children who were born here. Children of Igbo origin. Fulani origin. If you go to Sabo there are Hausa and Fulani people who were born here. They don't even know Kanu. They don't know Kanu. They don't even know Sokoto. It is Ibadan they know. It is here they know. Then you say, when election comes, he must go back to Kanu where they don't know him. And yet you are talking about federalism. Now, if you look at the memo is published in the book. I want you to get the book and read it. All the books I'm reading here, you can find them on udarabooks.com. udarabooks.com. You need to read history. To sharpen your mind. It will provoke you. It will inspire you. You will learn. You will shine. Those who study history don't cry. They fly. Now the author continues. Nzogu's control appeared to be holding. And in the interim, Captain Godi Ude of the 3rd Battalion with military escort to go to 5th Battalion Kanu by road to collect the necessary funds to pay the troops. Nzogu had moved the troops. They have struck. Now they are waiting for more order. You need to pay them. Nzogu didn't have money to pay. You know, you need to give the boys money to ginger them. Money is spirit. Money. That is why that spirit must be guided. You don't guide the spirit that comes with money. It leads to chaos. When $1 billion naira is stolen, that money will bring chaos. Because it is not guided by the spirit of goodness. That's why, despite African billionaires everywhere, they cannot even fund research. You go to places fund research. You go to places like IITA, you hear Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funding research. But African billionaires are buying Rolls Royce. You know, sometimes when I see the Oni driving his Rolls Royce on this Ibadan Efe road, I pity him. So how can you drive such a fine car on a bad road? Huh? Sometimes the car will enter gallop, boom, boom, the Oni's head will be shaking inside. Boom, boom. You will get boom, boom. Huh? On that bad road. Tinubu, go and fix that road. Fix that road. Ibadan to Ife. Ife to Ondo. Dualize the roads. Open up the Southwest. Let Southwest have good roads. That's Ilesha to Ekiti. Expand. Open up the Southwest. Let the people exert their energy. Creative people being strangled by poor governance. But they must deliver themselves. The author says Colonel Chukwuma Odumegu Ojukwu, commander, 5th Battalion, did not see why he should comply with the request of Nzogu if it was not endorsed by Lagos. And he, and indeed, went further to show his disapproval by immediately detaining Captain Ude, who Nzogu sent to him. You are saying the role Ojukwu played in countering the coup. So was it an Igbo coup? A Kaduna man led a coup. Okay, let's assume Kaduna Nzogu, his name is also Chukwuma. An Igbo man, that is a Kaduna man, led a coup. So how do we place Ojukwu now? Where is he from? Is Igbo. Bafemi Awolowo is Yoruba. What about me? Where am I from? When Captain Ude did not return, and the speculation then in the revolutionary camp was that foul play could not be ruled out, Major Obasanjo, who was alleged to have represented that Ojukwu was well disposed to him, received Nzogu's brief to proceed to Kanu by Nigeria Airway aircraft. Accompanied by the operating pilot, Lieutenant Daniel Suleiman and Jonathan Asen, Major Obasanjo was still to put across the same request for money to pay the troops and, as well, resolve whatever problem that was delaying or preventing the return of Captain Ude. Nzogu and his group had in effect asked Ojukwu to procure money from the Kanu Central Bank by any means at his disposal. Ojukwu here again, and without hesitation, Ike Nwachukwu, the officer in charge of Kanu Airport, to detain the officers and at the same time guard planes. I hardly sleep in a plane because I just believe I'm on top of the world. So I take that atmosphere to exact energy from the planet. You see me tapping energy from the planet. I'm always inspired. I come down from the plane like an eagle wanting to fly. The eagle has landed. I used to say that on the program Eagle's Square. Eagle's Eye. The eagle has landed. I used to run a program called Eagle's Eye on Splash 105.5 FM. I also ran a program Bull's Eye. What was it about eye? Eagle's eye, bull's eye. What was it about animals? Bull, eagle, horse, sport horse. As no news on Captain Ude, the pilots and Major Obasanjo was forthcoming. Lieutenant Danjuma Atu and I were instructed to fly to Kanu on a recognizance to determine the true picture in Kanu. Nzogu now sent a second plane. to go and know why the plane that was sent first had not returned. Ojukwu had detained it. So Captain August Okwe says, momentarily, it looked as if Nzogu was losing his grip on the situation. And if he did not pay the troops, there was no way total control could be guaranteed. Apart from giving me the very desirable recency of experience and proficiency, the flight was good for my morale because it got me out of Montball. I hadn't flown for close on 3 months, and it looked as if the coup d'etat was going to put some wind to my sail. He hadn't flown a plane for about 3 months, but now Nzogu is saying, go, take this plane, go to Kano, go and do a recognizance to know why the first plane was sent had not returned. Military movement. Who wants to be a soldier? Hey, get ready to enlist into the army. Get ready. Brilliant army officers will be recruited. You will love your army. The army is a prestigious institution. The Nigerian army, the Nigerian navy. Don't you like them when you see them when they are well dressed? The army. Get ready to join the army. We will defend the land. He said we came over Kanu Airport at about 200 feet above ground level and sighted the Piaggio with quite a few soldiers clustered around it. We put the airplane into a dive to gain speed and as well lose altitude. This high speed was heard as we made a very low pass over the parked airplane. The soldiers, in a predictable reaction, scattered and scrambled for cover, but did not fire at us. The activities at the airport conclusively showed that a landing was inadvisable. We returned to Kaduna to give Nzogu the SITREP situation report. Before we got to the command headquarters, Nzogu had announced to all officers that he had grouped all forces under his control into 3. The first group was to forge northwards to Zaria and Kanu. Now Nzogu was ready to march on Kanu to take on Ojukwu. He wants to take on Ojukwu now. Since he's refusing to cooperate, he wants to march on Kanu. Nzogu was on fire. He was hot. By this time, he had shot Ahmadu Bello and his wife and Ahmadu Bello's bodyguard. By this time, Onwatuegu had invaded the house of the GOC, Brigadier General Samuel Ademulegun. Onwatuegu had taken him down. Ademulegun's wife too, a pregnant wife, was also gunned down. So the guys were smelling blood. If Ojukwu was not going to cooperate, let's march on Kanu and let's confront him. Nzogu was ready to fight. You need to read this book, The Last Flight. A pilot remembers the Air Force and the Biafran air attacks. It is the story of the first Nigerian coup. Let's read. Call the radio station. Bosun? Bosun is here. Good morning. I can't hear that caller. So we let, okay? 070694 930 00. 070694 930 00. If you want to order The Last Flight, you can also chat with me on WhatsApp. My WhatsApp number is 080 999 18449. 080 999 18449. That's my WhatsApp number if you want to order the books. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, bro.
Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning.
This is Anthony.
Good morning, Mr. Anthony.
Happy New Year.
I wish you
You
well.
see, the issue of this Uzogu you are just narrating. I want to first of all thank you for that book you gave me, which is about Kaduna and Zogu. I wasn't getting clear the role he played in that coup until I read that book. Initially, I was even thinking that he was executed during that coup. Know that it was after the coup during the Civil War, the Biafra Civil War. That was when he met his death on the battlefield. So the issue is what prompted that coup? What was Zogu and his perceived that propelled them to go into that action? Those things, are they still in existence? Are we still having such thing existing till now? Then if that be, that shows that what that kind of action, their coup, something like that could as well one day we will wake up and hear the sound of such a thing happening again. So the issue is we have to look at the cause of this and sit down as a nation, as a country. We want peace, we want progress, we want advancement, and put these things right so that something like that will not erupt again in this country, because there must be something, like you said, in every action there is equal and opposite reaction. So that is what we have to look at. And I really enjoy your analysis. It's making people to get it clear, because all that here is an Igbo. It was Igbo people that do the coup, but it was not. For those who will read the book, they will get to understand. Even though Babangida have said it, that coup wasn't an Igbo coup, and there are those who witnessed all those things, participated. So I think it's good. History is very good. I will keep on learning every day to understand this country better and how to run it better. Thank you. I wish you more grace to continue doing your good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Thank you. Hey, are you there? All right, let's hear from you. Good morning. Hello? Hello? Okay. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Edmund.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, I'm Obembe by name. Quickly, first, you asked some pertinent questions about Fulani dominance earlier. I think the answers to your questions are all in the books you've been recommending for us to read, starting from Sir Mufuta Ulaniu. It is clear they are dominant, even if not in leadership, in the structure of the leadership. The roads, they had better roads, as far as I know, in up to, say, 2005 or so. About the role of Odume Gojuku, the secretary of NADECO, what was his Baba saying? He launched a book yesterday or 2 days ago. He clearly stated in his book, I mean, this is contrasting the book you're talking about this morning. He was saying Ojukwu was in the know of the coup and played critical role and highlight how meetings were held in certain places. Though I'm here to read that very book. But you see, that's the funny thing with history. It's not like science. Sometimes contrasting, many times contrasting, and only in the eye of the teller of the story. But with the synopsis I've heard on the television from analysts, I think it's Pa Yobanjo. No, Pa Opadokun. From what Opadokun's book talked about, which is something about hegemony of the guns or something like that, it's clearly contrasting what you are telling us this morning about the role of Ojukwu. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you. You know, I have another book here entitled The Nigerian Revolution and the Biafran War by Alexander Madiebo. Now, Madiebo also played a critical role. You know, Nzogu had captured Kaduna. He was in charge in the north. Ojukwu was resisting him. The guys that were told to gun down Ironsi in Lagos did not carry out that orders. Yes, Emmanuel Ifajuna was clinical in his own. But Major Okafo saw Ironsi and did not take him out. Why? Ifajuna took out May Malari, Tafawa Balewa. So the three leaders of the coup were clinical, but Ifajuna was in charge of Lagos. And if they did not take out the head of the army, the GOC of the army, Aguiyi Ironsi, that coup was not going to work. Aguiyi Ironsi had chatted with Madiebo. Madiebo said here, I left Lagos for Kaduna on the morning of 13th of January with Hassan Katsina. Major Alphonsus Keshi, the brigade major, 1st Brigade, telephoned my house at 5:45 hours of the 15th of January, 1966, to inform me that the coup had started at midnight and was still going on. According to him, the coup was being led by Major Nzogu and appeared to be going on successfully. It had already resulted in the death of some senior military and civilian leaders, including Brigadier Demulegun, Colonel Raf Shudende, the commander of Nigerian Military Training College, the Saudana, the Premier, and a few others. Major Keshi condemned the whole exercise, but requested that I come down to the brigade headquarters to assist him in handling the very explosive situation. I considered a hasty move through the town to the brigade headquarters unwise at that stage, for I was yet ignorant of Major Keshi's real role and my relationship with those executing the coup. My first reaction was to walk across the nearby artillery officers' mess and alert my officers. There, I found only a young northern Nigerian 2nd Lieutenant Nasco, who told me that all other unit officers had gone on a night exercise and were not yet back. Zogu had mobilized all of them for the coup. They didn't even know they were going for a coup. There I found only a young northern Nigerian, 2nd Lieutenant Nasco, who told me that all other unit officers had gone on a night exercise and were not yet back. I briefed him on the situation without going into the details of casualties and instructed him to go immediately to the unit and alert the men and await my arrival. At about 9:00 hours, okay, let's look at dates. Let me not skip this. I got to my office soon afterwards and discovered that those unit officers on the exercise took with them almost all the guns and a good quantity of ammunition, as well as most of the serviceable motor vehicle. Wow, he didn't even know. Those under his command, he didn't even know that they were with Nzogu. I spoke to what was left of the unit on the situation and asked them to prepare to repel any attack from any quarter. In addition, the remaining vehicle was field ready to move troops to anywhere on the orders from a competent authority. Now, another Igbo man was mobilizing to counter the coup, and that is Alexander Madiebo. Alexander Madiebo later became the GOC of the Biafran army during the war. In fact, he was the one who convinced Nzogu to end the coup. Some would say he deceived Nzogu to end the coup and told Nzogu that Ironsi wanted to see him in Lagos and convinced Nzogu that Ironsi was with him in the coup. Immediately Nzogu got to Lagos, Ironsi arrested him. So he says at about 9:00 hours of 16 January 1966, the young officers under me who took part in the coup, Lieutenant Bob Egbiko and Olafemio, came back. So these are Yoruba names that took part in the coup. Okay, Egbiko is not a Yoruba name, but Olafemio came back to the unit and reported to my office. They talked glibly of how they had gone on an authorized exercise, during which they suddenly realized it was a coup and they were forced to take part against their will. I could not possibly believe them because of the amount of equipment and ammunition they took away without my permission. I think Madebo should have been court-martialed. He lost his troop to Nzogu. He should be court-martialed. You know, Madebo, I wanted to visit his house. I wanted to know where he lived. I wanted to enter his sitting room. I wanted to look at his albums. And I was lucky. One of his sons took me into his house recently. And I smelled the GOC of the Biafran army, Major General Alexander Madibo. I looked at all his pictures at Sandhurst and I snapped them. So I have a collection of Madibo's pictures. I intend to use those pictures for a documentary. It is the story of the first Nigerian coup. You know, here, Madibo also narrated Ojukwu's role. Have you read the book, The Nigerian Revolution and the Biafran War? Look at the book. You can order your copy on udarabooks.com or through my WhatsApp number 080 18449. Let's read. All right, I can see a caller there. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I'm Debra from Ibadan. I really appreciate everything you have been narrating. But let us tell ourselves, this Nigeria is a complex country. Too complex, even God himself, I don't know that how he can duplicate it. That is why people are saying we should restructure this country. If you have a very big orange and you cannot swallow it, the only thing to do is to cut it into pieces. I want to ask you a question, sir. What is happening in North now? Do you want to tell me that the Northerners, the governors there, are truly patriotic? When some intruders will be coming to their own territory, taking their people away and sign for them, taking over their property, and you have a governor there negotiating with those people from outside the country. Are they defending their own fatherland or they are oppressing their fatherland? If they are truly patriotic, like we know of Aminu Kano and others like that, I think we will not be having this same problem we are facing now. All our politicians, they are not patriotic at all. That is why we say if we can restructure and we'll be able to fix out those wicked people, satanic DNA politicians among us, we will know how to govern ourselves. But with us, depending on federal system that cannot bring us to any expected end, I think it's a road to nowhere. God will heal this land.
Okay. She ended it with that God will heal this land. All right. God heal the land. Heal the land. Okay. Bosun. Bosun is here.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Hello.
I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. So, I'm Kosi Molarewaju speaking from Akobo, Ibadan. So, the January 15, 1966 coup. So, it was the coup that derailed Nigeria. So, it was that coup that led us to where we were today as a country. Because it was after this coup, the regional government was totally destroyed through Major General JTU and Go Irosi by drafted in Decree 34, which destroyed the regional power. So, and for people to be saying that this coup is not an Igbo coup, as for me, based on the history I've read and what you have been saying since, this is an Igbo coup. Because according to the last paragraph you read from the book, so you mentioned one Olafimiya, a Yoruba man, but they were according to what I had from what you said, that they were not even aware that it was a coup. It means that they deceived them into his, but finding themselves in the battle, they have no option to go back than to fight again. So it was that coup that created the problem we are facing today in Nigeria, because it was that coup that gave the Fulani the power to dominate the country. Because it was that coup that opened the eyes of the Fulani soldiers to know how to plow coup, which led to the counter coup of General Aguiyi Ironsi in 1970 that later killed him. And since then, Nigeria has been experiencing a lot of coup. So that made the northern power that made the northern people to be more powerful over the rest of the country. I think there's nothing like 1966 coup. Western region will have been flourishing, Eastern region will have been flourishing, and Northern region will be doing their own thing, their own way, and each region will be progressing. And this is where Yoruba people are today, campaigning for true federalism and total restructure of the country. So, good morning, sir. That's my own view.
Thank you. Thank you. But don't forget, Bosun, don't forget that it was the Western region that became the troubled region in the First Republic. It was the Western region that could not put his house in order. It was the Western region that produced the coup. Don't forget Operation Wet here. Yorubas could not put themselves in order. Every crisis that crashed, the main crisis that crashed the First Republic was in Yoruba land. How do you explain that? The battle between Akintola and Awolowo. If you read this book, Why We Struck, Adewale Ademoyega said he was in Abeokuta in the Queen's Own Regiment. During the 1962 crisis, the problem in the Western region started from 1962. And that was when Awolowo was also arrested. Adewale Ademoyega said, when Tafawa Balewa declared a state of emergency in the Western region, due to the fracas in the Western Region House of Assembly, he said they were drafted from Abeokuta Barrack to Ibadan to come and maintain peace. Because at that time, the Ibadan troop were in the Congo. So they had to move troops from Abeokuta. They said when they got to Ibadan, Ibadan was peaceful. There was no need for a declaration of a state of emergency at all. That it was totally political. Everywhere was calm. So why state of emergency? Tafawa Balewa declared a state of emergency because they wanted to cut the wings of Awolowo, the influence of Awu. And when they declared a state of emergency, Maje Kudumi was appointed as the sole administrator of the Western region. So Akintola was temporarily removed. But when everything calmed down, they brought him back. So the Western region was the epicenter of the violence. It was the crack in the Western region that led to the fall of the First Republic. Do you agree? Then the last caller also talked about Decree 34. That it was Decree 34 that destroyed the regional system. The unification decree. The military cannot govern under that kind of system. For the military to govern, there must be what you call a central command. So when there is a central command, the regional system cannot work. That is the reality as far as military government. So how come when Gowon came, he did not repeal the decree? Have you asked? Or the decree? Gowon did not repeal the decree. He also used it. Because that's the only way a military head of state can operate. You must unify. You must have total command. But in the regional system, the regional premier had command. The military cannot operate that way. The military operates with a central command. So the unification decree was a necessity. That's the point I'm making. It was not emotional. That's the only way the military can govern. A central command. They must unify. Gowon came, he did not go against what Ironsi established. Murtala Mohammed also followed that same procedure. To Obasanjo, to Buhari, it must be a central command. That's why when Ojukwu was saying, give us regional command at the Aburi conference, and Gowon agreed. If you gave Ojukwu regional command, that means you have divided the army. Once you have divided the army, you have divided the state. The army can only operate with a central command. And there must be a commander-in-chief. Okay, let's take this call.
God bless you. Sonyola Adema is my name.
Good morning.
With all this have happened, because let me tell you, some of our leaders, you know about them, they lie against Igbos. They lie against some regions, which is still causing one thing in Nigeria. But when will Nigeria come and tell us the fact leader? Let me take an example. The president of this country did not come that Nigeria is the turn of Nigeria. He said, it is my turn. Turn of who? Turn of what region? Is it the turn of a region, a state, or a nation? If truly we want a turn of a nation, nationality, because in nation of things, what have you already brought? The whole that military policy, what stop them not to change it? Automatically, it is what they have been on. But since it has happened, we are into democracy now. We are still seeing lacuna in some regions. Because I read the statement of Tunde Bakari that said that Tafawa Balewa called somebody. It's a critical. In fact, if the man supposed to be arrested or in that statement, go back to the one story. How can Tafawa Balewa call a region? That is what is still happening. That in Yorubas, we believe that Igbo is their enemy. Igbo still believe Hausa is their enemy. What are they? What did they wrote, and what did they prepare for the unborn children? That is why there is sentiment in governance, in ruling of this country. God bless you. Good morning.
Thank you for calling the radio station. It is Splash 105.5 FM, the integrity station. Stay tuned, stay cool. there's this part that interests me a lot. That's page 31. You said, of course, there were powerful non-state political actors in the background, breathing down heavily on the government. Early in 1993, a delegation of the Center for Democratic Studies visited the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Dasuki, on a transition sensitization visit. After the formalities, the hall was cleared, and the Sultan requested the representatives of the management of the CDS to advise Babangida not to proceed with the election, because according to him, neither MKO Abiola nor Bashir Tofa was qualified to be the president. The management of CDS replied that it was already late to stop the process because the candidates were already on the campaign trail and the nation was expectant. The Sultan said that if the management of CDS could not advise President Babangida to stop the election, he would do himself.
Yes.
That is the Sultan here.
Yeah. There were what I would call powers behind the throne. Although the throne is higher than everybody, but there are also powers behind who, interestingly, were stronger than the throne, more powerful than the throne.
Can the Sultan be that powerful?
It could be that powerful religiously. He is taken as the head of all Muslims. So that's one area where he could exercise that power and influence. The other is, we said at the beginning that a lie is something you lie because you want to benefit from it. So, or you lie or you believe a lie because it agrees with what you also want, what you were thinking before. So if the Sultan tells Babangida something that agrees with what Babangida wanted, of course, they are collinear. They are in agreement, and therefore he would obey. And I think that there was a lot of that because spiritual leader, but as we say in politics, there's also politics behind the scene, which sometimes determines issues more than the politics on the scene. That's what they call the atrologia. It's something, there are things that nobody is ever told. Politics works at night most of the time, and politicians are night animals.
Yeah.
So, and there are no minutes of such meetings, and the minutes are in the minds of the participants. So it's a question of what's going on, which is not in the public domain.
Why the night? Because as a political reporter, I even find myself working at night to know what the politicians are doing. Why do they like the night?
They like the night most of the time because they want to exclude other people. Women have been complaining that one of the reasons women are not many in politics is that it's a nocturnal game, and they are not given to that kind of thing. Second reason why it is a night game is that usually after the official meeting that they hold, if you find politicians say, "Hi, how are you? Very good. Where are you going now?" "I'm going home." "Okay, we'll see you later." There's going to be another meeting.
What can you take away from that statement by the Sultan? Do you now feel that the North was afraid of the coming of Abiola?
From what the Sultan was alleged to have said at the meeting with CDS management, he felt that
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Billy.
I can hear you. Good morning.
My name is Badmus following, sir, from Ring Road.
The ball is in your court.
Now, I was in school when the army had made exercise to recruit people, to force people to fight the war.
Hello? Oh, sorry about that. It's network. It's NEPA. It's NEPA. We have refused to stop calling it NEPA. We have refused this NEPA. Hello? Good morning. Ademoyega said, finally, there were the non-professional graduates in the fighting arms of the army. Actually, okay, let's take Baba's call.
Hello, Edmund.
Hello, Baba.
Yeah. Finally, before we go, I'm happy to say that you ended your discussion with my first statement this morning concerning the crisis in the action group, especially between Chief Obafemi Awolowo and SLA Akintola. You see, there's a question you never add some Nigeria, particularly the Southwestern and the Yorubas. Why did they tag Akintola a traitor? Some people believe Akintola was a traitor. Whereas it's not so. That was why I was saying that Chief Obafemi was not accommodating. If he has allowed the crisis to be settled, we have Yoruba elders who wanted to settle the crisis. The Oba of the Oni of Ife then, Sadi Soja Remi, was the governor of Western region. He was removed when the problem started in the West. But yet, the Baba wanted to settle the crisis. He knew where it would end. Some other Ijebu elders even wanted to end the crisis. But Chief Obafemi Awolowo refused. That was the time when he said Akintola must go. And the later said Akintola tapu. Now, let me tell you, Chief S said Akintola was more preferable to the Northerners. He spoke Hausa fluently, and he had the diplomacy to accommodate the Hausa. You understand me? He advised Obafemi Awolowo to conquer, which Obafemi Awolowo refused. That was why I was saying he refused to conquer. You see, Nnamdi Azikiwe and Awolowo we make a meeting to join together and do so. But the next day, Nnamdi Azikiwe will go the other way. And Akintola was telling Awolowo that, look, this man Azikiwe is wiser than you. You yourself can do as he has been doing. You can accommodate these outside people and work with them. They will prepare you. But Balewa was interested in Awolowo. Balewa was particularly interested in Awolowo. He liked the brilliance. In fact, the Onibos wanted to hand over to Awolowo instead of Azikiwe. We had our father said that the Onibos prepared Awolowo because Awolowo was sent in Britain Zeke was saying in America, they observe the Pacific as equal to be more dynamic. That was why they prepared Awolowo. But you say the same mistake he made that ended the first block. He made when the Obasanjo wanted to hand over power. I had Chief Awolowo said, "Social listen years ago." Not knowing that those people who watched him fall that time were still around. And he said, "You hear now? Hear him." That was why a lot of his lieutenants fell out with Joseph Taka was supposed to team up with Awolowo. I believe Edmund is hearing me.
Yeah, I'm listening.
A lot of slight mistakes on the part of Awolowo. You see, if he had stood to contact, perhaps if there would be coup in this country, it will take a very long time. Let me just stop there. That is the problem. Akitola was not a traitor. He advised his leader to conquer, which his leader refused and started. Those who did not understand what they were labeling Akitola as a traitor. It wasn't so. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Achibolaniwa. Yeah, let's take more calls. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Make your point.
Yes, it's a privilege to be speaking to your live program today. Yes, and commend your ability to dissect national issues from a historical perspective. It is one of the most sensitive, systemic, and systematic things to do. So, callers after callers have attempted to look at this issue from a microscopic perspective. I would attempt to look at it from a macroscopic perspective in the sense that there is one particular issue we are meeting. Everybody is pointing at using fingers at the 5 measures of 1966. Nobody is looking at what caused that move. Why was the move? What was the purpose of that move? What is the aftermath of the move? And very importantly, as a student of classics, the empirical issue has been that we failed to go back to the crime scene of January 15, 1966. Those who were investigators of the issues that happened collated evidence. Where are the evidence? It is almost over 50 years later that we begin to put different accounts of different participants together in an attempt to arrive at a causal reality of who did what and why. And everybody who has approached this, just like yourself, from an empirical standpoint, has arrived at the point that states that that was not ethnically motivated. You know, the problem with Nigeria consistently has been our inability to come together to address our issues and have conversations about them and then make progress from them. And that is why we see that every constitution we've had as a nation was not a product of the national compact. We are unable to sit down together, look at issues as they are, draw lessons from them, look at how we can relate with each other, and then make progress. It was with some form of trepidation I listened to somebody outrightly say that the coup was an Igbo coup. And I'm wondering, in the reality of abundance of resources, the books that you kept on advertising, various materials online, archives that you can consult and draw conclusions by yourself, that somebody is at this stage attributing the coup, the problems of contemporary Nigeria to Nzogu coup. No, the problem of Nigeria is beyond the Nzogu coup. The problem of Nigeria is simply that we are unable to look at matters as they are. We are unable to see things, call them what they are, sit down and have a conversation. If we want to live together, federalism can work in a 1,000 states. Federalism can work in a 36 state nation. It is about facing reality, being faithful to the reality we want, and then sitting down together to have a conversation, either to live together as one or we go our separate ways. Each way, or whatever it is, Nigeria is a nation that has a promise. And until we come back and sit down at the central table to think, we would not be able to attain the realities of what we're supposed to become. Thank you so much, sir. Have a wonderful day. We enjoy your program so much.
Thank you. Thank you. In subsequent editions, I will address the full text of the first Coup broadcast of Major Kaduna Nzogu. But if you have this book, fellow countrymen, you find the full text on page 44 of the book. But Nzogu says here in the broadcast, this is the end of the extraordinary order of the day, which you will soon begin to see displayed in public. My dear countrymen, no citizen should have anything to fear, so long as that citizen is law-abiding, and if that citizen has religiously obeyed the native laws of the country, and those set down in every heart and conscience since the 1st of October 1960. Our enemies are the political profiteers, the swindlers, the men in high and low places that seek bribes and demand 10%, those that seek to keep the country divided permanently so that they can remain in office as ministers or VIPs at least, the tribalists, the nepotist, those who make the country look big for nothing, the four international circle, those that have contempt of our society and put the Nigerian political calendar back by their words and deeds. That is Nzogu there. You know, they called that operation Exercise Damisa. That was the code name for the coup. Exercise Damisa. It's a decoy. They rolled out. If you go on my YouTube channel, I had an interview with Sholakbe Ademulegun, the daughter of Brigadier Sam Ademulegun, who was killed in that coup. She was 6 then. She was sleeping with her daddy and mommy. When Onwatuegu and his guys came in, shot her daddy and shot her pregnant mommy. She tells that story. Sholakbe is even yet to recover from the trauma. A 6-year-old child watching as her parents were gunned down. Let's take more calls. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. This is Dr. Ayula Bugo calling from Lamlate. You see, I don't like the type of role played by General Madibu. To me, he tricked Ndiogu to fall to the hand of Hiroshi. You see, Hiroshi gave them 5 conditions. Okay, they gave Hiroshi 5 conditions that Ndiogu will become one of the officers of the Nigerian military. When you go through the book, when we saw, and other conditions. But Hiroshi failed to fulfill that promise. Instead, they locked Ndiogu, and that's the end of the coup. Now, my people was an Igbo man, and we know that if Ndiogu reached Lagos, they will capture him and they take him to do the needful at that time. That's why I don't like the type of leadership to Madibo place. But while General Alabi Sama, he mentioned that we have some Yoruba partaking in the Biafran issue, the Biafran war. And as a result of that, they want to capture Lagos through Ore. And at the end of the day, all the loyal officers at that time, they were killed. But the question that readily comes to my mind is that, why is it that the Igbos left their leaders, their military leaders, unkilled, and their chiefs unkilled? The leaders, they just killed Yoruba leaders and part of the northern leaders. So the question is totally in my mind that why is it like that? Thank you, Dr. Ilabugu from Lamate.
Thank you. Let's look at some of those that were killed in that coup. Sir Tafawa Balewa, the Prime Minister. Chief Festus Okotiebo, Minister of Finance. Chief Samuel Ladoke Akintola, Premier, Western Region. Sir Amadou Bello, Premier, Northern Region. Brigadier Sam Ademulegun, GOC First Division, Kaduna. Brigadier Zakaria May Malari. You know, the death of May Malari is particularly saddening. May Malari had lost his wife. So he remarried, and on the 14th of January, he hosted a party to celebrate the coming of his new wife. The boys that came to kill him the next day were in that party, rejoicing with him. They all had fun together. In fact, May Malari was gunned down by his own chief of staff. We'll come to that. Colonel R.A. Shudende was killed. You know, some have also said that no Igbo man was killed. No, there was an Igbo officer that was also killed because he did not cooperate with the coup piece. He is Lieutenant Colonel Chinyelu Unegbe. Lieutenant Colonel Chinyelu Unegbe was killed in that coup. There was Colonel Kor Muhammad and Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Paul. Major Samuel Adegoke was a victim of that coup. Also a victim was Brigadier Palm. Yes, those were the top guys that were taken out. Some have asked why were no Igbo officers killed. Let's read from this book, Fellow Countrymen, the story of coup d'etats in Nigeria. On Udara Books, we have a collection of more than 30 books on the coup, the war, and the military. You would do well to have those books. Give them to your children to read. Buy books, give books out as gifts. I have always given out books out as gifts, even before we established Udara Books. Give out books as gifts. Knowledge is power. Now on page 52 of the book Fellow Countrymen by Richard Akinola, Ojukwu speaks. Ojukwu granted an interview that Akinola is referencing here in his book. Akinola says, Ojukwu says, after Ironsi's first broadcast, you know, in subsequent edition, we'll look at Ironsi's broadcast. You know, I'm doing a 15-part on this work. A 15-part, this story of the coup, is going to be 15 parts. This is edition 3. I do a broadcast every Tuesday and Thursday on my YouTube channel. So on Tuesday, I did, okay, on Thursday I did part 1. This is part 2. This is part 2. On Thursday I did part 1. On Tuesday is going to be part 3. You can join me on YouTube on Tuesday, 5 p.m. Nigerian time, 5 p.m., 5:30. Part 3. Then on Thursday, I'll have part 4 until we get to the war. And we'll be making reference to books. A lot of works, even recent works, we'll look at them and have a wider perspective of what happened. So Juku says somebody else spoke to the west. Ejo spoke to the east. The announcement had a snowball effect. They helped in restoring confidence and a sense of direction in the army. The country also became clear about the change. After the announcement, I got on to Nzogu, then in Kaduna, and said, "You are now famous. You should now demonstrate to the world that you have no personal motive in the coup." This is Ojukwu talking to Nzogu. Now that the GOC, that is Hagi Ronsi, has called, all you have to do is to get back into line. He's telling Nzogu now to get back into line and obey orders that Ronsi has taken over. Before then, there had been friction between Nzogu and myself because I maintained my independence. This is Ojukwu saying he was not part of the coup. Knowing about the coup is different from being part of the coup. You know, I say when you have military intelligence, you can know when something wants to happen. Even as a journalist, you can easily predict what will happen. You will know that, this guy is planning to rig the election. There are signs, you see it. So you also see signs of coup. So Juku says, before then, there had been friction between Nzogu and myself because I maintained my independence. So the announcement by the GOC affected Nzogu. This is how I got involved in government. Nzogu found it difficult to accept my advice, though he realized it was already a fait accompli. I continued to talk. I wanted him to fall in line, and quite suddenly, he said to me, "If you say so, I agree." Because at this time, Ojukwu was the most senior military officer in the north. Ademu Legun had been killed, who was the GOC. I told Ironsi that Nzogu had agreed to fall in line. You know, to fall in line is to join the queue and obey orders. To fall in line, agile. Police, army. I wanted him to fall in line. Later, I was ordered to Lagos and appointed military governor for the East, Fajri for the West, Ejo for the Midwest, and Hassan Katsina for the North. You know, why did Nzogu not gun down Hassan Katsina? Hassan Katsina was smart. When Nzogu walked into his office and said, "Which side do you belong?" Hassan Katsina, I belong to your side. Huh? Which side will I belong to? This was a senior officer. Nzogu was holding a gun. So you will say you don't belong to his side? Okay. Let's take more calls and then we'll round off the discourse. More editions will come. We cannot exhaust this subject. But the idea is that the class goes on every Tuesday, Thursday, as I splash. Good morning.
So, yeah, some people this are so far be telling us what's wrong with this country. Yeah, but let's start looking at the bigger picture. All that's gone is gone. Let's start looking at the bigger picture. The trend all over the world is regionalism. In Europe, it's not a single country under a confederation, under a single currency. Why can't we have that here? West Africa can be one country under a federation. But my Islam here is the only way out is confederation. So what's stopping us confederating? Which is the way to go? Eventually we regionalize. All this story about what happened, what did not happen, it's not relevant. It's still smoke. Let's forget about it.
How can we forget
Let's
it?
rejoin life.
No. How can we
Let's
forget history?
confederate. Thank you.
How can you forget history? When we make blanket statements like this, I begin to wonder. So if you don't know your past, how do you say, let's forget it? We can't forget it. That is the essence of history. Did you forget the stories of your birth? These are the things that prepare you for the future. Because of these stories now, you cannot even regionalize. You are still bogged down. And you want to forget the story? No, that statement is too blanket. No, you don't forget stories. That is why they are written. That's why Wolowo wrote the stories. We should forget the books too. We should forget the archives. We should forget American history. America is built on a solid historical foundation. No, we don't forget the past. We live with it. We learn from it. And we move. Regionalize a confederacy. Nkrumah wanted a United States of Africa like the last caller is recommending. How come we did not get a United States of Africa? Perhaps someday we'll get it. Is Africa a country? Yes, Europe is a confederation. Europe is the coming together of ethnic states. Most European states are ethnic states. That's why they are small. But here, we are trying a different model. Is it working? Perhaps our model will be the best model in the future. Okay, don't forget the past. Learn from it. 070694 93000 and 070144 75770. These are the numbers to call. Call the radio station. But soon look at your phone. There's a caller there. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I'm going to cut you off. If you don't turn down the volume of your radio set. I don't have that patience now to say turn it off. Cut you off immediately. Books that you should read. Number 1, Ojukwu Exile, Diplomacy and Survival by Kanayo Isinulo. Read that book. Number 2, The Nigerian Revolution and the Biafran War by Alexander Madibu. Let's read. Number 3, Awu on the Nigerian Civil War. Let's read. The Other Side of Biafra by Tony Amadi. That's number 4. Let's read. Fact and Fiction in the Literature of the Nigerian Civil War by Akachi Adimora Ezigbo. Let's read. Sunset at Dawn, a novel of the Biafran War by Chukwuemeka Ike. Let's read. The Untold Story of the Nigerian Biafra War, a chronological reconstruction of the events and circumstances by Dr. Luke Aneke. Let's read. The Man Died by Wole Soyinka. Let's read. I also discovered that Northerners are not writing. Northerners are not writing enough. They have been silent about the story of Nigeria. Is it deliberate? Northerners are not writing. You can hardly see a book written by Northerner, except in recent time when you are having biographies and autobiographies. On this subject of the war, I've been looking for a book on Ahmadu Bello for years. It's just recently I got a copy on Ahmadu Bello to understand the man, not just by what he said. I want to understand the man and be fair to him. If you are a Northerner, write us a book. I want to read your book, your story. Because some have also accused me that most of the stories on my YouTube channel are by Yorubas and Igbo. I said the Northerners are not writing. I'm reviewing books. They're not writing. Another book to read is Nigeria Biafra Civil War by Chike Odenwa. Let's read. Nzogu by Olusegun Obasanjo. Let's read. Why We Struck by Adewale Ademoyega. Let's read. Riding the Storms with God in My Sails, the autobiography of Admiral Alison Madueke. Let's read. Nigeria on Gunpowder, The Climax of Misrule by Victor Olutaiwo. Let's read. That is number 13. Number 14, read the book Ironse, Nigeria, the Army, Power and Politics by Chuks Iluebunam. Let's read. Tragedy of Victory on the sport account of the Nigerian Biafra War in the Atlantic Theatre by Labi Sama. Let's read. Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Adichie. Let's read. Roses and Bullets by Akachi Adimora Ezigbo. Let's read. My Command by Olusegun Obasanjo. Not My Will by Olusegun Obasanjo. A Maker by Frederick Forsyth. Let's read. General of the People's Army by Chuks Iluebunam. Let's read. Victor Banjo, A Revolutionary Betrayed by Nia Borishade. Let's read. A Gift of Sequins, Letters to My Wife by Victor Banjo and his daughter, Professor Onyigbodun. Let's read. Military Leadership in Nigeria by Major General James Oluleye. Let's read. The Brigadier's Daughter by Sholakwe Ademulegun. Let's read. Our Father's Land, including reminiscences on the Nigerian Biafra War by Titus Okereke. Let's read. People Who Make History, Emeka Ojukwu. All Eyes on Me, Civil War, Cement Armada, Decree 4, Adumaru Diko by Major General Hadu Hanania. Yes, that is a northerner. Let's read. The Last Flight, A Pilot Remembers the Air Force and Biafra Air Attacks by August Okwe. I'll leave it at that. These are books you should read. You will find these books on udarabooks.com. You can also order them through my WhatsApp number 080-919-18449. The next program is Ijoba Tiwa Wishun Special. I am Edmondo Bello. Thank you for listening.